Hey everyone, how's it going? Matthew Kadish here, author, evil genius, and lovable teddy bear, coming at you today with yet another Legion of Doom live stream. And with me today is the Legion of Doom themselves. We have, first of all, from Midnight's Edge, the one, the only Tom Connors. Tom.
Hello, everybody.
And then coming to us from across the pond, we have the alter ego of Ruin the Man Baby, Anthony Ergo. Anthony.
Hello, man babies. Yes, I'll be just being my usual self. I'm having the night off as Ruin tonight, but yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
And of course, from sunny crime-riddled California, we have Stephen.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me on.
The consummate dank meme creator of the Fandom Menace joining us today. And we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. So are you guys ready to get right to it?
Yep.
Yeah, let's do it.
We've got Salty Nerd and Laser Pants in the chat. Hi, guys. Thanks for tuning in. All right. So first things first, we're going to be talking about the new casting news coming out of the Batman camp. So as we all know, Matt Reeves, director and writer Matt Reeves from the Planet of the Apes remakes, is doing the new Batman movie starring Robert Pattinson. So we affectionately call these movies the Pattinson films. And we've got a lot of casting news this week. So I just want to go over this and then get your guys' thoughts on the casting stuff. So of course we have Robert Pattinson as Batman, but we have Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. So this is obviously not tied to any of the Justice League stuff that came before it, obviously, because we had J.K. Simmons playing a very different Commissioner Gordon in that. And then we have the big announcement was Zoe Kravitz, Lenny Kravitz's daughter, playing Catwoman in the movie. And yesterday we got news that Paul Dano is cast as the Riddler. Formerly speculated that it was going to be what's his name, the fat kid from
Jonah Hill, who was dropped out due to reportedly wanting too much, and in his place, they're talking to Seth Rogen, rumored to be anyway, speculatory.
Yeah. So possibly as the Penguin.
Yeah, so all they got to do now is just get James Franco and call it Freaks and Geeks and Bats.
There's been some rumors that Josh Gad has been petitioning.
He's been pushing for it.
Yeah, he's been actively seeking it. But it's funny because Paul Dano, he's an actor that I remember from this movie called The Girl Next Door, which is a great film. It was made a long time ago. But it has some very interesting actors in it. Timothy Olyphant and what's the I'm blanking on his name. The guy who played Mr. Fantastic in the Fanforstic movie. Any of you guys remember who that is?
That guy.
Yeah.
I just want to Google.
I know who he is, but I can't think of his name either. I'm horrible with names. So, yeah.
And it's funny because he's been kind of an up-and-coming actor, and he was in this series I was actually going to talk about in one of our other news stories called Too Old to Die Young. And let me just look him up real quick.
Well, while you're doing that, Dano isn't a bad choice, I guess. Zoe's not a bad choice. I mean, could get worse. Could get Seth Rogen as Penguin.
Yeah, I like this Dano guy. I remember him from Cowboys and Aliens, and he's got that kind of bit of craziness about him, hasn't he? I think that could work actually. So I'm willing to give him a shot. Yeah.
Oh, this isn't the guy I was thinking of. Anyway, getting back to the cast. Yeah, Paul Dano, he's been in a lot of stuff. He was in There Will Be Blood. He's one of those guys who you might recognize his face, but you don't know his name. Those really solid character actors. So ideally, I would have liked to have seen someone like what's his name, the Doctor Who guy, David Tennant, play the Riddler.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
He'd be a little too old, though.
I guess they're going for a younger.
They're doing Batman babies. Let's face it.
Yeah, Batman Year Zero type thing. But I wanted to get your guys' take on the casting. So Commissioner Gordon, Catwoman, and Riddler. Ruin, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah. Well, obviously, as the world famous director and writer director I am. Yeah, Can I ignore Patterson for now because I've got major problems with that one? But the rest, I'm okay with. I like this guy Jeffrey Wright. I thought he played a great part in the Westworld TV show. I think he's got good depth. He's a good character actor. So yeah, I'm down with that. I'm cool with that. Zoe Kravitz, she's got a bit of pedigree, hasn't she, in various sort of comic book movies. I've not seen a lot of her, but
I mean, like she still hasn't done a whole lot. She was in the Fantastic Beasts, Crimes of Grindelwald film.
See, I know her more that her dad's famous. That's
yeah. Her dad is musician Lenny Kravitz.
of course, yeah. Seen him live. He's really good.
HBO's Big Little Lies. I guess I haven't seen that show, but I mean, she was okay in the stuff I've seen her in.
She's got like the Eartha Kitt eyes and kind of face, so I can kind of see why they went with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can go with that. And let's say this other guy they brought in that I've seen in Cowboys and Aliens. Yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool for kind of breaking new ground. I know some of the other names that we tossed about earlier. They've just been kind of done to death, and they're really obvious people to slot into the role. But Patterson's the one I'm a big Batman fan, and as soon as I heard about that, I was like, oh no, surely not. And I'm not even tying this into the kind of baggage that comes with someone who's been in Twilight, but I just think he's a bad fit for the role. I don't think he's got the physicality. He can bring a kind of moodiness or whatever, but I'm going to struggle with that one. I'm not writing him off. I'll give the guy a chance, but I'm disappointed. Maybe more so than when Affleck got the shout. But I don't know. When have we? I'm a Michael Keaton guy, and I thought the Christian Bale Batman was a pretty good version. But other than that, I struggle with the casting choices for Batman. So no, interested to know what you guys think.
Yeah, Stephen, what are your thoughts on the Batman casting?
I'm kind of like what Bruin just said. It's like I think I'm cool with the casting. Like Jeffrey Wright is a really good actor. I like the work he's done, especially like in Westworld. I'm not too familiar with Zoe Kravitz. I know of her, but I don't think I've seen her in anything. But I'm more of like another Batman.
How dare you?
I'm trying to get past that hurdle. It's just like
I'm surprised that they abandoned the whole Batfleck thing so quickly. Because
I think that was more Ben's choice.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like we're getting so many Batman like reboots.
That, and I don't know. Did you hear that they couldn't? I don't think they could get him insured.
Oh, because of his
really?
alcoholism.
Yeah, between his alcoholism and all that other shit.
Ben?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he's still making movies, so like they.
Yeah, but I mean, a big action movie like that where there's that much money on it, I'm sure the insurance has got to be off the roof.
I'm sure he's bonded.
Well, that was the rumor that went around, but I mean, he pokes fun at it in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So.
They were able to get Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, well, he was way clean by then too. That's the difference.
Still, like that was a big deal when RDJ got cast in the original Iron Man because he was basically uninsurable in Hollywood. So for people who don't understand how this works, like if you have a major actor in your movie as the star, they have to be bonded, they have to be insured so that if something happens to them and the movie doesn't get finished for whatever reason, the studio is able to recoup some of that loss. So basically every A-list actor that you see in a movie, they have to go through a bonding and insurance process before the movie can basically get going, because otherwise if something happens to them, the studio's just out all that money and they have no way of getting it back. So it's basically a risk kind of mitigation.
Risk aversion.
And so when you have big name actors that have conditions or habits that put them at higher risk of not finishing a movie or something like that, it becomes harder to find insurance or bonding agencies for
This
them.
is famously what killed What's-Her-Face's career. The one from Herbie.
Oh,
Lindsay Lohan. Yes.
Lohan. because of her partying ways and alcoholism and stuff like that, she became a lot harder to insure, and that definitely affected her ability to get certain types of roles. So that's one of those things that it's kind of inside baseball stuff. Not a lot of people think about it.
Right.
So, overall,
as far as the other one, Paul Dano, I'm kind of surprised. He kind of fits more of a Joker look almost.
Yeah.
Well, at least in this picture.
Well, just in general, what I've seen of it, he kind of has more of that. Like, there's other guys I would have went to first for the Riddler. I mean, it's not a bad choice, but when I look at it, I picture more like he would have been like, oh, that'd have been a little bit different way to go with the Joker. But maybe they're not going to have a Joker in this because of the whole, just to kind of separate for a bit. Who knows? I haven't heard any talk of the Joker. I mean, I've heard all these other characters, but
who would you have liked to have seen as the Riddler, Tom?
Well, Jonah Hill wouldn't have been a horrible choice if you could have got him to slim down even more. But I have a feeling they were poking at him for he was perfect for the Penguin. Yeah. So, I mean, that made sense. Because Seth Rogen, I just don't see him as a Penguin, and he's going to go in there and just like, hey, Batman, you want to join? But God, the sad part is, what's his ass who played Lex?
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg should have been the Riddler to begin with.
Yeah,
like that was, if you're going to put him in something, that would have been like a perfect role for him. Otherwise, there's who else would probably be good? Let me think about that for a minute while you ask somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, he basically played the Riddler in the Batman vs. Superman.
Pretty much. That's
I'm interested with the choices that are being made for this film, because it seems like every Batman movie that's made, they always make questionable casting choices, and then once you see the movie, you're like, oh, okay.
What's the name of the kid who plays Beast in the First Class movies in X-Men? Is
that guy? I know who you're talking about.
He was a kid actor too, and I can't think of his name.
He was in Mad Max.
Yeah, he'd be perfect for the Riddler.
He's another one of those guys whose faces that you recognize, but
I can't think of his name. Nicholas Hoult. Yes, thank you. Yeah, he'd be perfect.
Yeah, he'd be a good Riddler. I thought that, it's funny, Patton Oswalt played the Penguin in one of those.
It's funny you said that.
Funny or Die pictures, and he was actually really good in it.
Yeah, he wouldn't be a horrible choice. I'd pick him before Josh Gad.
Yeah, we actually have this other article here that I'll show you guys. It says that Warner Brothers reportedly still looking for a Penguin actor. And they kind of talk about Zoe Kravitz getting cast in the role, but Deadline says that the next order of business for this movie is to cast who's going to play the Penguin. And I feel like this is one of those Batman Returns scenarios where they're just putting in way too many villains in the movie, like maybe one or two at the most, but with the Riddler, the Penguin, and Catwoman, I think that's kind of pushing things.
I wonder if it's going to be more of they're setting it up for down the road, because Miller, Jesus Christ, Reeves is one of those that he was really good about, even though Planet of the Apes 2 and 3 don't really connect as far as story wise. He was really good with the characters. So I have a feeling, and setting up things for down the road in his third film. So I wonder if that's what a lot of this is some of these are just going to be throwaway cameos that will build up to stuff in the next two movies. Because I think he signed on for a trilogy, didn't he?
Yeah, he's doing a trilogy. According to this comicbook.com article, Josh Gad, Jack Black, Nick Frost, and Andy Serkis have all been considered for the Penguin role.
So, interesting choices.
I know, right? Everyone, welcome Proper Jeremy.
DJ.
Hey, how is it? How is everyone?
Proper Jeremy.
What's up?
Doing good. We're just talking about the Batman casting news this week.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, do you have any thoughts on the casting news? So we got Paul Dano as the Riddler, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, and Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon.
I am very much in support of Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. I think she'll do a great job. I don't really know much about Paul Dano or Jeffrey Wright or their careers, but I think that will work, for me personally, because I don't have any preconceived thoughts specifically, with Jonah Hill earlier. I just was like, I don't know about that. It works better for me when these iconic characters are portrayed by people who aren't as well known. For me personally, so I am optimistic about this.
Well, lucky for you, Jonah Hill's off the table, I guess. So.
Oh yeah, I'm aware of that. That's why it was somewhat of a like, I don't know how this is going to work for me. Kind of like how Jesse Eisenberg was for Lex Luthor. I'm like, I don't know.
I won't tell him. I won't tell him who's rumored to be on the table though, then, because he'll freak.
Oh, it's okay. Like I'm willing to give everyone a chance.
Well, they're looking at Seth Rogen now. Rumored to be looking at.
That's
see,
hilarious.
at least with Jonah Hill, I could see if they're going with like the politician type Penguin, how he could fit perfectly in that role. I'm gonna have a hard time taking Seth Rogen seriously as the Penguin.
Well, what's interesting is Telltale Games did a Batman video game right before it shut down, and they had a very interesting take on the Penguin that was something different than anything I'd ever seen before. So I do think there are things that you can do with that character that don't fit the typical mold. But whether or not it would work in this movie, because I guess this movie, Robert Pattinson came out earlier, I think yesterday, in some interview, and he said that the Batman that they're creating is not a moral character. He kind of said that this version of the Dark Knight's going to be very kind of gray matter, ambiguous, crossing lines and stuff like that. And that kind of upset some of the Batman faithful, but at the same time, I can kind of see where they're going with it. So it's just a question of whether or not this is going to be a good movie or not.
So in other words, it's going to be more like Frank Miller's Batman, kind of.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe not like Batman, he might
not like full on, but
it's going to be dark. I think he's going to be messing up criminals left and right or something like that. But it might be one of those things where Batman starts off as just like a guy who beats up thugs and then morphs into a detective type thing. So that might be what we're going to see from this movie. Plot details have been very lacking, so we don't know what the movie's about. We just know kind of who's going to be in it, and that it's somewhat based off of The Long Halloween, but I don't know how accurate that is. Anyway, guys, any more thoughts on Batman before we move on?
I just want to know what everyone else thinks of Pattinson. Am I the only...
no, you're not. I have got a lot of reservations about Pattinson, and a lot of it's mainly, and I admit, because he's just got that stigma. That's a big problem. I mean, I liked Ben Affleck's Batman though, and I liked Affleck anyway. So I mean, I was one of the few of his supporters, and I liked his version. And I guess from what Pattinson's saying, they're going more along that line, because Affleck's the kind of guy that would kick the shit out of somebody, and then somebody be like, "You almost killed a guy." He's like, "Yeah, I almost killed him. He'll live." That kind of a thing. To where he beats a guy within inches of his life. Kind of thing.
Straight up murdered people. So.
Yeah, Batfleck got to the point. Well, that's the thing. By the time you get to Batflex, it's Frank Miller Batman. That's why he just don't give a shit anymore.
Frank Miller's Batman didn't cross that line. I mean, Batman v Superman, Batfleck, he straight up murdered fools. Like just
well, I'm trying to. I swear the Batman was a little bit more frivolous in one of the Dark Knight comics. There's a lot.
There was that moment where he could have killed the Joker.
Well, the Joker kills himself. That's the
Joker kills himself because Batman refused to cross that.
Yeah, that part. Yeah. But then I think in the next one, doesn't he kill? I don't remember. It's been a while since I read them. I just know there's a lot of blood.
Yeah, there is blood. Like Batman definitely will cripple people and put them in the hospital for the rest of their life. But
maybe as a kid, I thought they were dead. Because I read that when I was
even when he leads the gang army on Gotham City, they use like rubber bullets and
oh, that's right. God, I totally forgot that.
Yeah.
So. Isn't that one of the most consistent things about? Well, maybe not one of the most.
Not really.
That he doesn't kill people, or it's just that moral dilemma or something.
It started it's never been really a thing until like the last 30, 40 years. Because in the initial, he carried a gun and everything in the original comics.
They needed an excuse to keep him from killing all the best bad guys.
Because I mean, before he used to just kill him willy nilly,
point.
like whatever. Because I think he killed the Joker within like 3 appearances of the Joker, but he was so popular they had to bring him back, or within the first appearance. I can't remember which now. I know it was early on, but yeah, he used to kill people all the time back in the day. And then it became more of a thing. He wouldn't use guns, but I don't know if he necessarily wouldn't kill people. And then by like the 60s or whatever, when it came to the Batman in the 50s, with all the crap with Frederick Wortham in the comic book scare, I think that's when they really like cleaned everybody's act up.
Oh, okay. Bear in mind, though, I mostly just go based off these cinematic appearances.
Right. Well, the
portrayals.
cinematic appearances have always taken a lot of fucking just carte blanche with the character, especially Tim Burton's. Like, he's killing people left and right in the Tim Burton movies, and nobody really stops to think of that.
Yeah. But they're also so cartoony that it's kind of hard to take the Tim Burton ones seriously.
In retrospect, yes. I mean, I appreciate them for their production value and just the balls they had at the time, and the fact that we didn't have a real Batman to that point. It felt like, I mean, yeah, Adam West Batman was cool, but let's face it, it was camp from the start. It was all tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah. But that's what was fun about it. That's what we loved about it, the camp.
Right, and that's all that was doing, was making fun of the 50s squeaky clean Batman anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Burton Batman, the 88 Batman, was heavily influenced by The Dark Knight.
Between The Dark Knight and Killing Joke, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so moving on from DC,
sorry about that.
A little bit about Marvel. We've got the big news coming out of Hollywood, the industry, that Kevin Feige, the godfather of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has been promoted over at Disney. So basically, this comes to us from Deadline. It says, Marvel Studios President Kevin Feige adds Marvel Chief Creative Officer title. He'll oversee all creative and story initiatives. Now, for those of you out there that kind of are unfamiliar with Hollywood's executive structure, basically the Chief Creative Officer, CCO, is the guy who kind of oversees the I guess, creative end of all these movies. So in Disney, you have a guy named Alan Horn, who's the head of the Disney motion picture arm, and he's the chief creative officer over there. And he kind of has a co-chair with a guy who handles the more of the day-to-day business stuff while he handles the kind of overarching creative stuff. So Alan Horn looks over all the Pixar movies, all the Marvel movies, all the Star Wars movies, all the Disney movies, basically every movie that comes out of Disney, Alan Horn gets kind of like the final say on, and he's the guy who kind of shepherds each individual project and puts it out there. And he's been very successful in that position. And a while back, when it was announced that Kevin Feige was going to be taking over, or I should say, producing a Star Wars movie, I kind of put out a video and I speculated that he was being groomed to replace Alan Horn back when Bob Iger steps down. It's kind of widely believed that Horn is going to step down as well. And Kevin Feige is going to be put into his role as being the chief creative officer of all Disney films. And that his kind of foray into Star Wars and stuff like that was a precursor to this. And I think this is even more proof that that theory kind of holds a little bit of water, because as the chief creative officer of Marvel, he's basically doing Alan Horn's job, but for one aspect of the film universe. But this puts him in charge of the movies. This puts him in charge of all the Marvel TV shows. And it also puts him in charge of the publishing end of things. So basically, any comic book story, any new characters in the comic books, he has a say over. He gets the final approval or disapproval on that stuff, along with the TV series. It used to be that the Marvel TV production was under the Marvel Entertainment banner, which was separate from Marvel Studios. It was Marvel's publishing arm. And that's why you didn't see a whole lot of crossover between the movies and the TVs, because they were basically two different units within the Marvel branch there. And they operated independently of one another. And what this does is it basically puts Marvel TV under Feige's control, along with Marvel movies and Marvel comic books. So he kind of has the overarching say on all this stuff. What do you guys think of this news? Let's start with, if he's still with us, Ruin the Man Baby.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of disappointed because I thought he might take over from Kathleen Kennedy. And yeah, I thought that was maybe the path he would go, and obviously doing what he's done with the Marvel universe, I thought is the hope for Star Wars. Can he kind of carve out the future of Disney Star Wars and give us something better than the crap we've had so far? But am I right in saying his role doesn't encompass Lucasfilm? I believe he's got going to have some input over Disney Plus. Am I right, Matthew?
He's involved in Disney Plus only in so much as that Marvel Studios is creating TV shows and movies for it.
Ah, okay. So really, no input then on the Star Wars content.
No direct control on the Star Wars content or the Disney Plus content or anything like that.
Yeah. So disappointed personally. Obviously, my big interest being Star Wars, I would have liked to have him involved at that senior level, but yeah, look, good news for Marvel. He's done some really good stuff, and damn, why can't we have someone like that at Star Wars?
Well, if he does take over Alan Horn's position, he will be Kathleen Kennedy's boss. So there's always that.
But you will get you will get the Kevin Feige produced Star Wars film. Yes, if you guys heard about that, so that's going to be a thing. So,
well, didn't KK come out and say that she's planning on stepping down in 2021, or was that somebody else saying that?
I think that was a rumor.
I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, her contract was extended for 3 years last year, so that's maybe what you might be thinking of. Hey, what's up, Drunk?
We need to take a moment to welcome Go to the stream.
Hello.
Hey, Drunk. How you doing, man?
I'm good.
I just
kind of snuck in there. Sorry.
I'm sorry I forgot to include you in the tweet that I just sent out.
Oh, no, I know. It's fine. I didn't know I was going to make it on. I got home a little bit early. Saw you guys were still going. And I was like, let me just hop in.
Well, we pretty much just started. So I don't know if you caught what we were talking about, but we were talking about Kevin Feige's promotion to Chief Creative Officer at Marvel. And but before we get to your thoughts on that, Steven, the illustrator, what do you think of this development?
I'm kind of the same. I thought he was going to be maybe taking over. So, as long as Kathleen is still kind of in charge of everything, it's like, I don't think things will probably be improving anytime soon. So it'll be interesting to see like what he does, like if he does get a movie and how he handles the material and stuff. And I mean, one thing about Kevin Feige that I liked about the MCU, like I'm not the biggest MCU fan, but one thing I liked is how true he stayed to the source material as much as possible, and how he kind of meshed it all together and kept the consistent storyline going with throughout all the movies over the last 10 years. So, it would have been great if he had been in charge from the start. It seems like they just kind of trampled on so much of the Star Wars lore now. It's hard to see.
Well, it's funny that you guys keep relating this to Star Wars.
That's what I was about to say.
Feige hasn't had anything to do with Star Wars for like over a decade.
Should I kind of jump in here since
we
this
want
is one of the things I'm prepared for?
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
What this signifies is we're going to finally have synergy between television and movies when it comes to Marvel.
And comics.
In comics, obviously, too. I don't know how far that's going to reach, but basically they're pushing Jeff Loeb out of the equation now. He's still there. I guess somebody at, I think it was comicbooknews.com, reached out to, I don't know who, because they didn't cite their source. They didn't even say it was an anonymous source. They just said that as far as they know, Jeff Loeb's still there. But basically, he's doing nothing. What is he there for? Just to be a go-between. I think they're just waiting out his contract.
They might bring him in as like the head of the TV, and he'd report to Kevin Feige.
That's basically it. Yeah, he reports to Kevin now instead of Iger. Yeah. Ike Perlmutter.
And also Dan Buckley is staying the head of he's the president of Marvel Entertainment. He's the guy who oversees the comics and the licensing and stuff like that. But his boss is now Kevin Feige.
And one person who doesn't really get a lot of credit would be Quesada. He's the creative director, and he's going to stay there too. Well,
he's the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics.
I think so. But I think he has to do with both sides. I'm not 100% on that, but I mean, he's still around, and he's been a mainstay there for a long time.
But he's also one of the reasons why Marvel Comics is in the state that it's in right now.
They could be. I can't argue with that. The other side of this is everybody's like, well, why would they do this? Everybody loved the Netflix shows. It's like, well, everybody loved 1.5 of the Netflix shows. And really, if you go look back at Jeff Loeb's record, that's all he's got. He's got 1.5 shows where he's probably just lucky that he happened to put the right people in control of those shows.
Yeah, Daredevil was really Stephen S. DeKnight's baby.
So basically what you have here is Kevin Feige taking ultimate control of the Marvel Universe now. Like, he's got every facet outside of him. I think the only one that's still in question is animation, which I don't think he really gives a shit about outside of the What If series. So... And honestly, if that's the case, then that tells me he's in charge of animation too. Then, so here's what you got. He's like the ultimate, overseer now, and it's his shot to see if he's really what the wonderkin we always think he was. I mean, we've been accused more of being a Marvel shill since this news come out. It's like, what are we supposed to say? Just because a lot of people didn't care for Captain Marvel, you're supposed to just bash on this guy, considering his track record is, unheard of in Hollywood. Nobody can match it at this point. I mean, it's going to take a while to come up with another Kevin Feige.
He does have a good track record of kind of keeping a long ongoing series on track, which I think Kathleen Kennedy has obviously failed at. Proper, what do you think of this news, and how do you think it's going to affect Marvel going forward?
Well, I honestly think that, this is great news. I would like to congratulate Mr. Feige on his promotion. I really would, because as you guys were just talking about, just out of one hiccup with Captain Marvel, really, and everyone just starts to hate on him for that. I mean, and you're going to forget about all of the other accomplishments that he has done for this cinematic universe. Like, 1 out of 23 films. I mean, you could argue if some of them were duds, though, but like one that people like really, really hate, and that's gonna, cloud your perception of his entire career and going forward. I think that's ridiculous. So far, he has proven that he is a good fit for Marvel. And I think it was, I forget which one who said it. But one of you guys said that it was a test to see, like, if he's. I think it was Tom who said it was a test to see, if he's really like the guy that we all, think he is. I think that this is a step in a pretty. It's going to be an interesting direction if you are going to have both the movies, the TV shows, and you said the comics as well. This is for the whole company, correct?
This is for all of Marvel Entertainment.
Okay. All right. So this is an opportunity to have all of them connect together. And with all of these different, all of these things in place, it would be very interesting to see what direction they take from here. Because I know that there's been some criticism about the Marvel comics for quite some time. Is that correct? Like, people were not happy about it.
Yeah, this could see a change in the comics, but we don't know. Yeah, if they go to be more uniform in line with the movies and stuff, then it'll basically be what we expect, probably more so.
Yeah, but the downside of that, it'll be Marvel, I guess. It'll be the same thing that we've gotten for the last 10 years, but through all of Marvel. So that would be the only downside if you're not a fan of, like, the Marvel humor, or you don't like everything to be cookie cutter the same, because that's Disney, I guess, playing it safe for the most part, not taking too many risks, at least from my opinion, from my point of view. So I don't know. I've kind of mixed feelings on it, but now that I'm reflecting on it more, but overall, I think this is a net positive, and I'm excited for the direction that he chooses to take it.
Well, we want to thank Drunk 3PO from coming down from the Geeks and Gamers mountain and slumming it. So, Drunk, what do you think of this news? Do you think this is a good thing for Marvel, that Feige is now the overseer?
Yeah, this is good for Marvel, bad for Star Wars.
Why is it bad for Star Wars?
If he
Everyone's going back to Star Wars.
if he produces a Star Wars film, Star Wars is not Marvel. You can't do a Marvel type movie and put it in the Star Wars. It's completely different. completely different type movie, and it's just Star Wars. It was sad. Will never be anything exciting like it was for me since they offed off Luke. So like that's just where I'm at. But as far as Marvel goes, I kind of closed the book personally after Endgame. Like I wasn't excited to go even see Spider-Man. I haven't even seen the new Spider-Man yet. I just kind of was like, I felt like the chapter was closed. The next phase coming, honestly, I'm just gonna sit back and listen to you guys. If you guys go see the film and say, yeah, go see it, it's really good. No, don't go see it. And then that's probably where I'm gonna be at. But I think him connecting all the dots a lot better with comics and movie. He's actually very smart about that aspect. So I think this is going to be great for Marvel in that line. I don't know about the next phase personally. I don't know. Nothing excites me, honestly. Like it just doesn't. I don't know. It was just weird. Endgame came. I felt my 10 years, 11 years of excitement. I watched every single movie in those 10 years. Ant-Man I loved them all. I really did. Some better than others, but I loved the sequence. I loved the journey. I hope he could find some of that magic again in the next phase, but I don't know. Hard to see. But I honestly, overall, good for Marvel. I think there's nobody better to be in charge there.
All right. Well, since we're on the topic of Star Wars, let's get to this news, which is Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy is now in doubt. And I'm sure this is good news to 90% of this panel, probably 100%. But I've been saying for a long time that as long as Kathleen Kennedy is in charge of Lucasfilm, I don't think Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy is going anywhere. And this is the first sign I've seen that my prediction might be wrong. And so if we go over to Screen Rant, they have this article that says Rian Johnson doesn't seem sure about his new Star Wars trilogy anymore. And basically this comes from an interview that Bang Showbiz did with him on the red carpet for his Knives Out movie. And he remarked that Lucasfilm is in the process of figuring out what they're doing and that he'd be thrilled if it happens. So he hasn't come out and said it's not happening. He hasn't said that it's dead. But it seems that Disney, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the news that Kevin Feige is coming in to produce a Star Wars movie, because I kind of pointed out in the video that I did covering that one of the interesting things here is going to be where Kevin Feige's movie fits into their planned Star Wars release schedule, because they have a schedule for a Star Wars movie every 2 years. And if Kevin Feige comes in and his movie is first, that pushes back the Benioff and Weiss trilogy, and that would definitely push back the Rian Johnson trilogy. So it seems that with Disney's plan on kind of reorganizing how they're doing Star Wars, with Kevin Feige coming into the mix, that has put their release schedule in doubt. And so Rian Johnson probably doesn't know if his movie is actually going to be going forward anymore. And if we want to, we can kind of listen to this on Twitter, I think. See if this works. It's not working, so screw it. But I want to get.
I can do the voiceover if you'd like me to do, Matthew.
In a bit, Mr. Man Baby.
Just watch the body language of that video. He just shrugs his shoulders. He looks off. He's just like, "Why did you ask me this question?" I don't know. Basically, that's the video.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of this news? Do you think that this is a sign that his trilogy is dead in the water? What's your take on this?
My thing is, I think they have no freaking idea what they're going to do with the next Star Wars film. We keep getting weird announcements. Keep saying it's the D&D brothers. No, maybe it's Rian Johnson. Oh, now Kevin Feige is going to do something. Now, I just don't think they have no idea what's coming next. They even released dates, and I think that's even suspect. I think that's even suspect. But I also feel that some of these directors might just be doing straight to streaming. And they just haven't said anything yet. I mean, I think they might do a couple shows for streaming and just call it a day. I mean, that's an easy out for Disney. If they promised Rian Johnson a trilogy and they're now seeing the damage that he's done to this franchise, to the fandom, to everything else, and they're like, dang, like, I don't know how we're going to do this. So maybe, why don't we just give him a streaming trilogy? He could just do it on streaming, and then he'll have his trilogy that we promised. And then, the hardcore fans won't be that upset. They'll just be like, there it is over there. So honestly, I don't know what to think. Honestly, I don't until they come out and say this is next, that's when we'll know, honestly. That's when they know. Because the D&D brothers was like all excitement. We were like, yes. And then that last season of Game of Thrones, and everyone's like, oh, God.
Oh, no.
Like, oh no, this is
anymore.
very bad.
I think Disney saw that too. They're like, what the heck is that? So
They are the masters of the logic of safety.
Proper. What's your take on this news? Do you think this is the first sign that Rian Johnson's out?
I honestly didn't think it was the first sign. I certainly don't think it's the last, but it's the way that he responded to the question that I thought was most interesting, because before he was like, oh yes, it's definitely happening. This is definitely a thing. You know, the vernacular he was using was just of, you know, excitement and just like, haha, I have a trilogy, suck it, man, babies. That's the attitude he had. And now, not so confident, I guess. He seems to be like, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm still talking to Disney. I don't know. It seems like he's losing confidence in that, because maybe they did offer. It's like, hey, we're probably not going to do it theatrically, but perhaps if we do it on the streaming service, people wouldn't be as mad, as Drunk 3PO said. Took the words right out of my mouth there. It's their best move if they want to continue having a positive relationship with Rian Johnson. If they choose to say, no, I don't know about this anymore, maybe we should part ways. Yeah, he's saying all the right things to keep himself safe for the time being, but the way that he's responding to that now, and we haven't heard much about it, and the fact that he would be probably like, it'll be coming out in what, 7 years or something?
8, if we're lucky.
If we're lucky, I mean, depending on who you are, if you're excited, but absolutely, it puts it in doubt. But you know, it's just we're gonna have to wait and see what after episode 9 comes out, because I always say, like, maybe there's that 1 in 14,605,000 chance that it's a masterpiece and it brings back the fandom. It's the best Star Wars movie ever. So until we see that movie and we see the response to it, how we feel about it, there is no way that I don't think Disney or Lucasfilm could really accurately predict like what movies are going to have when. My guess would be the streaming service, if at all.
Mr. Connors, you have an interesting take on the industry. What do you think Disney's doing here that's putting Ryan's job in doubt?
I think we have to go way back to that Bob Iger interview, where Bob Iger basically knew before anybody else, probably, when he said it in so many words, the buck stops with me now on Star Wars. And then he proceeded to bring up Benioff and Weiss and leave Rian Johnson out in the cold.
Mm-hmm.
I believe ever since then, it's pretty much been in his plans that this was not going to happen. There was one thing that was for sure, and that was Rian Johnson was not going to touch Star Wars ever again. I highly doubt it will happen. I didn't think it was going to happen then. I'm even in more doubt now than I was before, and I was pretty sure that it wasn't going to happen. I mean, I was willing to bet maybe they would work out a deal where he would direct one of the Benioff and Weiss films or something like that, and that'd be the closest we'd get to the Rian Johnson trilogy in quotations, and he would just go off and say, oh yeah, I helped him come up with the concept or some shit like that. I don't think he's even remotely close to anything happening. I really think it's been off the table. I think it's come down to one of those situations to where everybody pretty much knows it's not going to happen. They just haven't told him yet. And he probably had one of those meetings with them at some point where, you know, they're like, well, isn't there anything else you'd rather work on or something else? And I'm just, you know, I'm speculating here, but chances are they probably got to the point where they let him get the feeling that they weren't real keen on him making another Star Wars project, especially, I mean, let's face it, the way he's dealt with the fans, if they really wanted to throw their weight around, they could be just like, look, Ryan, this just isn't going to work out. You and the fans don't click. You know what I mean? And Bob Iger is a man who pays very close attention to what the fans say. Now, he may not always get the right message, but he does pay attention. And I have a feeling that there's no way we're going to see a Star Wars trilogy or Star Wars film out of Rian Johnson, Disney Plus or not.
So, Stephen, the Illustrator, have you been working on any memes to propagate this news?
No, but maybe I should.
What do you think? What do you think this means for Star Wars? Is this a hopeful sign?
Not well. It depends on who you ask. It depends on how you look at it. You know, some people are just mad about The Last Jedi. Other people are more critical of Disney in general. You know, everything they've been doing since they got a hold of the property. You know, first thing they did was Kathleen tossed out the EU, and then that ticked off a lot of fans, a lot of old fans. And then, The Force Awakens, not everybody, including me, was happy with it. But I think The Last Jedi really just kind of crossed the line with a lot of fans. But to me, there's no way Rian Johnson is going to get a trilogy. There's no way he's going to make a trilogy of Star Wars movies. They might toss him a bone with the streaming service, like you said. Maybe direct an episode or two, but there's no way he's going to get a movie, not even a single movie. There's no way. It's not going to happen.
Well, let's go to the source himself, Mr. Ruin the Man Baby.
Hello, man babies.
Are you still doing your trilogy, sir?
Well, started listening to you goddamn man babies still blabbing on about The Last Jedi. Let me tell you this, man babies. I'm not only getting a trilogy, I'm getting a trilogy of trilogies. I'm getting 9 movies. I'm going to rewrite the whole of Star Wars history. It's going to be fantastic, but honestly, I can't be this dude any longer. My thoughts on this is that Rian Johnson never even put pen to paper on an idea for a Star Wars movie. I think it was a throwaway comment he made, and Kathleen, in a moment of excitement, said, "Oh, that sounds fantastic. Let's do a trilogy on it." If I remember right, he said something at the time about, "Oh, I want to delve into the go away from the existing universe and delve into the past and take it to new planets and new places." And Kathleen got all excited, and this was before The Last Jedi had come out and before he kind of went on his rant and his attack on the fans. And I think whoever it was said Bob Iger pays attention is spot on, and they would be absolute fools to give this guy a trilogy. Obviously, for my own benefit, then there he is, old roundhead. Then I hope he does get a trilogy. That would just give me material for years. But the reality is, no, I don't think so. I actually think he's looking for a way out. I think he's looking to save a bit of face. And that's why he stutters his way through interviews, kind of saying, yeah, I'm not sure, we're working on it. But honestly, this guy's got no outline. He's put nothing down on paper. And I think that they're looking for an amicable way out. And I don't think we will get a Rian Johnson movie, but I hope we do. It would be beautiful.
For your career? For your career? I've been very vocal in my belief that Rian Johnson, his trilogy was pretty much set in stone so long as Kathleen Kennedy was still in charge. And I'm happy to say that I could be wrong. This is the first sign I've seen that's put doubt in my head that this is not going forward. So I guess we'll find out about this sooner or later. But once Kevin Feige's Star Wars movies hits, I think we'll get a better idea of what Disney plans to do with the movies and how Rian Johnson fits into that. So moving on, let's talk about Marvel again, circling back around. It was just announced the other day that there is now a third Ant-Man film in the works, and that Kevin Feige is planning to develop this so that it launches Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And they talked about how the kernels for this were set up in Avengers Endgame, and that after this current Phase 4 with Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange and Blade and all that stuff kind of sets the stage for the next phase of the cinematic universe. Ant-Man 3 is going to be the thing that kind of picks up the baton and ushers us into the new version with Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that. And it looks like a 2021 shoot is planned, which means we'll probably get it by 2022. And I want to know what you guys think about this stuff. So why don't we start with the industry man himself, Mr. Tom Connors.
I don't know why you call me that, but
what do you make of Ant-Man 3?
because you've worked more in the industry than I have. I've been outside of the industry, if anything. I'm not surprised. I liked the first two Ant-Man movies. I was probably the easiest on the second one out of most people, as far as critics go, especially on the internet. I'm not surprised we're going to get more into like the quantum realm, I believe, and cosmic stuff. I think it goes a little bit more along with what we had talked about on one show before on here, where Doctor Strange is going to open up that door to different kind of realms too, and I think this might tie into that a little bit.
Proper Jeremy, what do you think about the Ant-Man 3 movie? Are you excited about it?
I really don't have too much of a strong opinion on it. If they're thinking that far ahead, that's a good thing. That's a great sign. To what Drunk 3PO said earlier, like Endgame was Endgame, and if Phase 4 and 5 suck, I could just say, oh, they don't exist. I could just ignore them. I can have my Infinity Saga and just go to sleep knowing that happened, and I'd be happy. But with Tom mentioning the quantum realm, it actually does kind of concern me. The more that they get, this is usually where things really start to get really wonky, or it could go very bad, especially with Doctor Strange and the multiverse and all that. The more we get into time travel and all this complicated stuff, and the more that they contradict themselves, in their own movies with the time travel aspect, the more of a mess it could be. So as long as they're careful about how they go about this, then it'll work out just fine. But I like Paul Rudd, and I thought Ant-Man was going to be a flop. I was wrong, and I'm glad to be wrong about this, if it turns out to be great.
Drunk 3PO, what are your thoughts on Marvel's?
Doesn't that make Phase 4 really short? If they're going to start Phase 5 in 2021?
Oh, no, they're just shooting.
Oh, they're shooting. So it's not going to be out till 22?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty short.
Phase 4 is basically 2 years. That's okay. But no, I love the Ant-Man movies. I had no issues with them whatsoever. I like the first and second one. I thought they were a different change of pace than the regular.
And Ant-Man played a big role in Endgame, didn't he?
What's that?
Ooh.
Ant-Man played a big role in Endgame, didn't he?
More so than another movie that was shoved down our throats in anticipation of Endgame. Sorry.
That's
right.
Okay. I have no issues with that. I don't know if that will get me back into the MCU. Again, it'll just have to be like what they plan on setting up. I'm just interested in to see like what they're if they're going to do the same type of thing with a giant villain where they all come back together again and like repeat the process that they did the last 10 years, or are they going to try to do something different?
I think that's the plan. Is there'll be a new big bad that they're kind of assembling everybody to fight over the next decade or so.
The Green Goblin.
Yeah, it better be somebody big because they have made Captain Marvel unstoppable.
Well, the rumors are either Galactus or Doctor Doom, one of those two. Now that they got the Fantastic Four rights back, Mr.
Well, I think that's if it's Doctor Doom, then they're going to do him right because they've made him kind of weak in like some of the other films. So
that was Fox. That was Fox doing.
It's interesting you say that. This could be a way to start introducing the Fantastic Four too.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Mr. Steven the Illustrator, what are your thoughts on the Ant-Man movie coming out in Phase 5? Are you excited about it?
I wouldn't say I was excited. I saw the first one. I liked it. I plan to see the second one. I haven't watched it yet. But, it's, I don't know. I think Ant-Man was always kind of like a throwaway character, like as far as the movies go. And I don't think they expected it to be as successful as it was, the first one, or at least as well received as it was. But I don't know. It's the future of the MCU just seems kind of up in the air right now. And I think they're just kind of experimenting to see what direction to take and where to go. The only thing I'm really excited about would be like to see what they do with the X-Men and like Fantastic Four, like you said, Doctor Doom. Hopefully they don't screw that up. But outside of that, I don't know. It's just kind of all over the place. You've got with the multiverse and like Papa was saying with the multiverse and the time travel and it seems like they're just trying to figure out some way of keeping it fresh, but at the same time, maybe they're just trying to repeat the last 10 years and see if it'll work again.
We definitely know that that Kevin Feige likes the character of Scott Lang and the actor who plays him. Mr. Manbaby, I believe you are a writer of some renown. If you were kind of taking on the Ant-Man #3 movie, where would you take it?
Oh, do you want Anthony's version or do you want Ruin's version? Because they're both very different. I mean, what I'll say is, I didn't see the Ant-Man movies before Endgame, and then I think someone mentioned it in the chat, Neil, maybe, just looking through the comments, saying he was one of the standout parts of Endgame, and I agree with that. And I actually, as a result, went and watched the Ant-Man movie, the first one, and I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't think it would be all that good, and yeah, I was surprised. Not seen the second one yet, as Steven says, but hey, you can never get enough of Evangeline Lilly. Can I be that toxic male who just puts that out there? Yeah, so look, I'm down for more Ant-Man. I think it's an interesting character. I think it lends itself to the humor that works within the Marvel movies. So yeah, that's the way I'd go with it. Let's play on that angle. It's a really interesting concept for a character, and they've done a really great job with it. I was always a big Iron Man guy. That was my main man. But yeah, I could run with Ant-Man. I think it's cool. So yeah, I'm in.
Real quick,
what's the second one like? Should I watch it?
Yeah, watch the second Ant-Man. I enjoyed it. It wasn't quite as good as the first one, but for what it was decent. But what I want to know is, there's been a big push for an female Avengers movie coming out here, and as we all know, the Wasp would probably play a big role in that. What are your guys' thoughts on a possible all-female Avengers film?
It's sexist.
Careful, man, babies. We've got an all-male panel here.
Oh boy,
it's sexist. I said it.
Yeah, it is.
So because it's discriminatory against men, it's sexist.
Well, I mean, you think about
right.
Yeah,
you can't have your cake and eat it too. You know what I mean? No. Sorry.
Well, there was that moment in Endgame where you had all the women kind of come together
where it took everybody out of the movie, because you're like, how did all these people get in the same place at once, considering they were all like 12 football fields apart 10 minutes ago? But yeah, but I mean, even like when I was watching that, I was like, oh, that was kind of a cool moment. See all the female superheroes together.
I don't care if it's not just simply virtue signaling, which a lot of people would probably assume that would be the case. But if it's not that, then cool.
But I mean, we have to face the facts that an all female Avengers film would get Geeks and Gamers at least another 1 million subscribers.
That is very true. That's very true. We have to think about that.
I would just be watching Geeks and Gamers all day long. When news of that broke.
The scene in Infinity War didn't seem so bad. The one in Endgame felt a little more forced to me.
It did feel a little bit contrived, but at the same time, it was kind of like a cool little payoff, because it was the first time to get to see all those characters together in one spot. So I kind of liked it.
Yeah, everyone had their moment pretty much in that battle. So it didn't really upset me.
Except for Spider-Man. I felt he was kind of wasted.
He was just kind of sitting there like, okay.
I mean, he's a big part of the plot. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's the whole reason why Robert Downey says, fine, I'll do it,
I liked the bit where they're like, wait, there's an Ant-Man and a Spider-Man?
Right.
So many good things in Endgame, even though it's a bit of a mixed bag. But now that we've talked about Marvel for a bit, let's talk about Star Wars again.
Yes.
So there was a story that came out recently about the Cassian Andor show. And this is from Variety, and it says that Rogue One writer Tony Gilroy joins Cassian Andor Star Wars series at Disney+. And the big thing to take away from this is that Gilroy is set to write the pilot for the series, in addition to directing multiple episodes. He will work alongside Stephen Schiff, who remains on board as showrunner. No official premiere date has been set, but Disney had previously indicated the show would debut in 2021. So for the people out there who might not be familiar with some of the background on Star Wars Rogue One, basically the writer and director of that movie, which I believe was, somebody help me out with the...
Gareth Edwards?
Gareth Edwards, yes. So Gareth Edwards, basically, the rumor is that his initial cut of Rogue One was unwatchable. It was a mess. And so Tony Gilroy was brought in to kind of fix it up, and he kind of redid the entire third act of that movie, which ended up being the best part of that film. And he's basically the guy who saved Rogue One from being a complete and utter disaster. And there's been rumors on Reddit and stuff like that that have said that the Cassian Andor pilot, it was kind of going through the same thing, that the script was a mess, that nobody could really figure out what to do with these characters. And so they went back to the guy who saved Rogue One to kind of come in and save the TV show, and that this guy who is currently show running, Stephen Schiff, is kind of, being upended by Gilroy, much the same way Edwards was upended by Gilroy in the making of the movie. So there's a lot of interesting behind the scenes drama at Lucasfilm, which unfortunately isn't all that uncommon during the Kennedy era. So Ruin, why don't we start with you? What do you think of this news? Do you think it's a good thing that Gilroy is getting involved? Do you think that the rumors of the strife behind the scenes are accurate? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so, okay, as much as we give Disney a hard time for the Star Wars content, I have always been a fan of Rogue One. I think it's the best that they've produced. And yeah, what you said is totally right. I mean, it had a sloppy first act, but the third act in particular was absolutely fantastic. They are clearly looking for content here, but I think they're looking in the wrong place. The character of Cassian was fine within Rogue One, but I don't know if he warrants his own show, his standalone show. Maybe there's more to flesh out there, but I find his character kind of boring, to be honest, in Rogue One. I thought I'd have been more interested in the and I'm not great with the character names, but Chirrut Imwe and what's the other guy? Like a movie out of those two guys. That would have been awesome. I would have loved to have some backstory on those two. And
there's a possibility they could show up in this Disney Plus series.
Yeah, and I'm down for that. And but yeah, I don't know if I don't know. I just think they're looking for content for Disney Plus, and they're probably looking, in fairness, that Rogue One, in terms of how it's been received across the fan base is pretty positive. So maybe that's part of the thinking. But I'll give it a go. We're now a matter of weeks away from the launch and the Mandalorian, which everyone generally feels pretty positive about. So let's give it a go. We've got, God knows, we need something to be a bit positive about. So yeah, but I'm yet to be convinced he was the right character to run with.
Steven, what do you think about this news? Do you think it's good that Tony Gilroy is getting involved?
Probably, but then I think it's a sign that there was already some problems with it. I think he did a good job with what he did with Rogue One. And, it's like Ruin said, for me, that's the best thing Disney has done is Rogue One. It's not perfect. It's not great. But, yeah, like the last half was, it was really good. But I don't know why. I don't know whose decision it was to make a Cassian Andor show.
Catholic.
I figured that. Of all I think one of the big problems with Rogue One was the character development. And to me, he was actually the worst character. He was boring, and just there was nothing there. And I don't see how you can make a whole series around that. Like I said, like a show about Base and Chirrut would have been better. It seems like it would have been more interesting.
Well,
So-
look on the bright side. At least we're not getting a Rose Tico show.
I'd
Drunk-
be excited
Not
about
yet.
that. That'd be great. It'd give us all sorts of content to work with.
Drunk
Also,
3PO,
there's only one way to go, but there's only one way to go if the character sucked.
Drunk 3PO, what do you make of this news? Is this another sign of Disney's or Lucasfilm's mismanagement, or is this hopeful?
I think I would rather have a Rose Tico show where we could see her rise through the ranks of mechanicness and learn her tools correctly and how she became so smart in working the cargo bay.
Or see her relationship with her sister for
Oh,
Because-
trust me, you don't want to see her use tools.
Now, I like her sister as an actress. I think she's fantastic. She's in a couple other films. She's in one about Cambodia that is absolutely incredible. So even though she was in The Last Jedi for what, like 5 minutes, she was fantastic. Anyway, I don't know. I think they just put a bunch of names in a fishbowl and pull it out and say, this is what we're going to do for Star Wars, because they're literally giving us shows that nobody wants to see and nobody cares about. I don't understand. Like, do they just throw a dart on a dartboard and say, let's just go for broke and see how this works?
I mean, there are people who care about the Obi-Wan show they've been wanting to see.
The Obi-Wan show. Okay, so we got one out of what? How many? It's just, I honestly don't care. I don't want to see an Obi-Wan show because I've seen how they ruined my other characters. Now they're gonna ruin Obi-Wan. Give me somebody brand new. This is where I'm at with Star Wars. Give me somebody brand spanking new that I've never heard of and give me a show. I think that's one reason why The Mandalorian might be a little more positive, because it's like we get a feel for the character because we kind of know the Mandalorian who they are, and it goes from there. But it's a new character that we don't really know, but we kind of know, and it's just like it's just aggravating for me as a Star Wars fan. Honestly, it's just aggravating. So,
Mr. Proper, are you as aggravated as Drunk 3PO?
I'm aggravated.
Do you think this is a hopeful sign?
Look, I didn't like Rogue One. I actually really hated the movie. I thought it was pretty, I don't know, not for me. I was not excited about it. I was like, all right, I already know how this is going to end. Spoiler alert. Yeah, they get the plans. This isn't exciting for me. Decent story. I liked what they were trying to do, but yeah, Cassian Andor was Prince Caspian, whoever, is boring. I just didn't. I thought all the characters were pretty boring. The only things that I liked, or like the references to like the older films, having Jimmy Smits and James Earl Jones come back was great. Loved those parts. If I go rewatch it, I'm only gonna skip to those Darth Vader scenes because I thought they were awesome. But so I don't care. It's Drunk, you're right. It's a show that no one asked for and no one wanted. And also the problem with this is that he's going to live through it because he has to get to Rogue One. So I have
exactly. Thank you, Proper. Thank you. Exactly. You already know the end game. Give me somebody I don't know, so I don't know what's going to happen at the end.
Right. I was going to say, we've already seen the most important part of his life.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
So what's so important up until that point? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it could be great, but I don't know. I don't care. But you could also make that same argument for Obi-Wan, but people like Obi-Wan, so that's I don't care. If they really need the guy to come back and fix stuff again, it could be better than what we might have gotten without him. But to me, at the end of the day, just the stakes are not there. The stakes are not there.
Mr. Connors, do you think it's a good sign that Tony Gilroy has been drafted to come in and help fix the show?
Well, as far as Gareth Edwards goes, real quick, he's the last guy. Actually, I guess I'd have to direct a porno. Evidently, if anybody's seen Godzilla,
what? Where did this come from?
Because he never shows you the money shot. He cuts away all the goddamn time. And then and then he gets booted off of Rogue One, which was a dunk shot. Let's face it, because most of us enjoyed it here, except for PJ. But that's about it. I mean, that being said, it's the most enjoyable of the Disney Star Wars films to this point. I agree with everybody on that point. Otherwise, I agree more with Proper in the sense that I just don't give a shit. I really don't care about Cassian Andor.
Yeah.
I think what was more telling in this, wasn't this the article where he said something, he like alluded to that the show was about to be canceled if he wouldn't have come on board or something like that, or it still might be canceled?
No, I don't think that was in
Okay. All right. I had heard that somewhere too, and I thought he had said it, so that might be from a different article. But evidently, yeah, they brought Tony back on board to fix this thing. What are we going to get? Hopefully, I guess more of what we got in the last half of Rogue One. Do I really care? No. I mean, I was never a big Boba Fett fan, so I'm more excited about the fact that Favreau's involved with Star Wars than I am about the Mandalorian series as a whole. As far as Obi-Wan goes, okay, why didn't we get this first? This should have been one of the first movies out the door.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
oh yeah,
it made more sense for them to kick back, spend the time to write 3 scripts, get ready to shoot 3 movies back to back to back for Star Wars, trilogy sequels, and do something like Obi-Wan out the door or Rogue One out the door, just to kind of get everybody back into the spirit. But they knew they had to start with something. I still say it was just too much too soon. But the problem is that I'll agree with Iger on. The other part I'll disagree on is that Star Wars is oversaturated, because as Marvel's taught us anything, is that as long as shit's good, people will go to 6-7 movies a year if you put them out there.
Even if shit's mediocre.
Yeah, even if shit's mediocre, like the Fox movies and stuff. And, but no, as far as this goes, this is the last thing I really think any Star Wars fans could give a shit about.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that's promising is they'll think they might get a glimpse of Member Berries, because we know that the Empire's huge right now. We might get a shot of Vader.
Yeah. We might get Vader in this one, yeah.
That's about all you got hope for.
Right, and that's the sad part about it. The guy that you're supposed to be excited about is probably the least exciting part of it. It's like everything else that could be cool,
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, I am pretty hopeful that Tony Gilroy's involvement will mean that this series will be better than we're all expecting it to be. Like, they are saying it's going to be a hardcore spy thriller. There's probably going to be a lot of tension in it. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing
that's not Matthew. That's not Star Wars.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like that's another franchise. That ain't Star Wars. When you watch a Star Wars film, you want Force, you want Jedis, you want the conflict. When they gave it Rogue One, the best part of the movie was the Sith Lord.
This isn't a film, though. This is a TV series set in the universe, and I think that
but it's like
it gives you a lot of room to play with different concepts and see if they work or not.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Matthew, Drunk has given me a really good idea. Can I try something very quickly? We are gonna create our own Disney Plus show. I've got the cast list from Rogue One. Matthew, I'm scrolling up and down it. Say stop whenever you want. Say stop.
Stop.
Oh, ready? Are you ready, man, babies? It's Bodhi Rook. Bodhi Rook is our new Disney Plus TV series. We're going to have a whole 15-parter on Bodhi Rook. There we go.
Just be him having sex with tentacles the entire time.
It does feel like that's what they've done with Cassian Andor and some of this other shit they're giving us. And oh god, I don't know. Play that one at home, man, babies. Have hours of fun.
They're literally giving us the bottom of the barrel. Outside of Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is the only thing that has any pedigree attached to it. I mean, really, look at Mandalorian, look at this. Outside of Jon Favreau, developing Mandalorian or whatever, however you want to put it, what is it there to offer us? All of fans have ever wanted since Star Wars was on the screen to begin with, it was the same shit back in the day George Lucas used to pull. Instead of giving us, a TV series, he gives us the Ewoks movies. Instead of giving us an actual Star Wars cartoon Saturday mornings, what does he give us? Droids and Ewoks. Droids was okay, and then he pulls that away from us.
The interesting things about this purported slate of Star Wars TV series is you have Obi-Wan, which is the prequel era, kind of leading into the original trilogy. Then you have Cassian Andor, which is during the original trilogy. And then you have Mandalorian, which is after the original trilogy. So they're kind of giving us TV shows set in all the different eras somewhat.
They're cheap. Cheap alternatives to cool shit. That's the point. Is that it's like going to a carnival. It's like, yeah, you see the same toy you can get at Walmart for 3 cents, but you're going to spend $500 to get it because you want to get it at the carnival. The carnival is Star Wars, okay? So they think that we'll pay whatever fucking money that they want to charge for Disney Plus and give us the crappiest shows in the world. And that's exactly what Ruin was saying, is pick a freaking character. That's what's next, as long as it isn't somebody who's going to cost us some money.
Breaking news, man, babies. We have a new Disney Plus show announced. It's Galen Erso.
Exactly.
We're gonna have a 15-part TV show.
No. He costs too
Galen
much money.
Erso.
He cost, what's his face? Costs too much
Mads
money.
Mikkelsen costs too much money.
Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen. If we can do a young version, yes.
Well, we'll recast him as a woman or something. I don't know.
Yeah, young woman. That'll work. There you go.
We'll have a whole show dedicated to Commander Cody.
That's what I'm saying. That would be even smarter than some of the crap we got. At least he's well known. Yeah, like Steven's just saying there. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, that'd be better than Cassian Andor. I'd see a Cody.
Did I actually just get to do something that was better than theirs randomly? What?
Yes, you did. You fucking did. Because
Hey.
at least people care about that character.
You could have Cody. You could have a whole show with him and his regret over Order 66, how he turned on Obi-Wan. I mean, right there, that's more interesting than.
You mean like have him see a therapist for 5 episodes?
So you can turn him into like a rogue.
That would be amazing.
You call it Rogue
I'd watch
Trooper.
that.
You
Yeah.
call it Rogue Trooper, and he's just out there, taking down the Empire silently behind the scenes because of over his guilt. Yeah.
Yeah, after Order 66, he had a change of heart, and you realize what he did, and I mean, look right there. You can take it from there, and you can come up with all kinds of stories that would all be better than a Cassian Andor.
I agree.
I'm telling you, I would watch the Rose Tico series just because.
Even Rose Tico's a better character in a way. at least there's some.
It would be
growth.
like watching Batwoman just because. So,
Well, let's.
I have just one more thing, if I may, to add to this. If they keep having Tony Gilroy to come back and fix all of their problems that they have, same thing that happened to Rogue One. They keep going back to him. It's like, hey, we need you to fix this. Why don't they just hire him in the first place?
Because this just
Good
goes
point.
to show how cluster effed everything. And I know I've been swearing this whole time, and now I censor myself. Everything is behind the scenes there, and goes to show that what we've been saying, a lot of us have been saying all along, is Kathleen Kennedy is a prestigious producer. That's it. She's done a bunch of prestige movies with people to where she's never had to do anything. And I've said it a million times. You know how hard it is to probably call up and say, hey, I'm Kathleen Kennedy. Steven Spielberg needs all of downtown New York, and get it done in 5 seconds? That's easy to do because you got Steven Spielberg behind you. But now she's in control of this, and she is no Kevin Feige, we keep bringing up, because he took control of this universe. He knew from the start, and that's why Ant-Man was directed by what's-his-face, Peyton Reed, instead of
Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright, because Edgar Wright and Kevin Feige couldn't see eye to eye on how to fit it into the Marvel universe. And it was, whether you want to agree with it or not, it was for the better of the Marvel universe. And he knew to make that decision instead of, hey, we could have had an Edgar Wright Ant-Man movie. Well, it wouldn't have fit in with everything we were doing, though. He didn't make that sacrifice. Kathleen Kennedy's making those sacrifices. She's letting Rian Johnson come in there and toss the whole trilogy out the door and say, no, I want to do this instead. And driving, Trevorrow out the door in the process. This is called chaos, folks. This is how shit happens. And then when you got Lord and Miller filming for 80 days before they finally bring in Ron Howard. How the hell do you get 80 days in before you think, well, this ain't working? I've had relationships last less time than that. It's like, come on, guys. I mean, really, I love Robert Meyer Burnett, but the more he sticks up for KK, I'm like, come on, man. Come on, seriously. Yes, she could produce a Zemeckis film. Yes, she could produce a Spielberg film, but she should not have been handed the keys to Lucasfilm. And if
She was
so,
not a creative producer on it.
exactly. If not, she should have brought in somebody like Filoni or somebody like that to be her Kevin Feige to run the show. That's what she needed. And I think that's what Kiri Hart was supposed to be. And I think that's where her failure came in. And I know that's something you and I don't see eye to eye necessarily on, Matt, but I do feel like that was a big part of her departure from Lucasfilm in a way.
It's possible. But since we're on the topic of TV, let's talk about other prestige TV, which is that HBO is making a Maniac Cop TV show, but there's a little bit of a twist here. Now, when you hear Maniac Cop, you think, oh, schlocky 80s horror cash grab. But this TV show is actually being made by Nicholas Winding Refn, who is an amazing auteur in the sense like he did the movie Drive, and he recently did Too Old to Die Young on Amazon, which if you guys haven't watched it, it is a hypnotic show. It is beautifully done. It's something that I really enjoyed, even though I know that the average viewer would probably hate it because it doesn't hold your hand. But in terms of like the depths of its themes, the cinematography, the characterization, it was just a beautiful series that I really enjoyed. And I want to watch it again. But it was announced this week that Nicholas Winding Refn and John Himes are going to be producing Maniac Cop, an HBO series which has taken the schlocky 80s movie and turning it into an original show. And it's basically going to be set in Los Angeles, and it's going to show a bunch of different characters from the cop to the common criminal. And if you've seen his show Too Old to Die Young on Amazon, you'll know that Winding Refn is very kind of obsessed with the blurred line between being a cop and being a criminal. And he basically said on Twitter, Maniac Cop will be my version of a cocaine-fueled, neon-soaked, bubblegum-wrapped, mayhem-infused, speed-driven universe of thrill-seekers who are consumed by that ever-present struggle of good versus evil, but evil is winning. And I gotta tell you guys, so like I'm kind of a fan of those 80s shocky like horror movies, but the fact that Refn is doing this, and after seeing what he did with his last TV show, I am super excited for this. But I want to know what you guys think. Tom, why don't we start with you?
I have very little to add to this because, believe it or not, I have not seen the movies Maniac Cop. I know it's strange. You would think I have. I've never gotten a chance to. As far as the rest of it goes, I'd be more excited if it was before HBO went woke. Then I'd be more excited for an idea like this. It's ripe for like old school HBO. That's about all I can add to it because honestly, I should probably check out here. I don't want to, but I got to get working on something for Andre. So
Fine. Thanks for joining us, Tom.
I don't want to bug out, but I got to here. But yeah, I would be more excited for it if it was old school HBO. That's about my take on it. So yeah, thank you for having me, Matt. I hate to leave so early. I hate to do that, but
well, be sure to check out Tom on Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark on YouTube.
But yeah, we're trying to get a video out yet today, so I got to get my butt moving. So
thanks for joining us, Tom.
Take care, everybody.
Tom.
Good
Bye,
hanging out with
Tom.
all of you and meeting some of you. I haven't got to meet Ruin and I think Steven. I think we've been on a show before together. I'm not sure, but either way, it's been nice meeting you guys. And of course, Drunk and you and I, we go way, way, way back to like last Thursday. No, I'm just no, I've known Drunk for a little while now, and Proper, well,
Good people, man.
I put up with him. No, I'm just kidding. I love Proper. I love all you guys, and thanks for having me again, Matt. Appreciate it.
Farewell, Tom.
Take care,
See you,
everybody.
Tom.
Yes.
Later.
So, going back to the old HBO, I think that giving Winding Refn the reins on this one is kind of like an old school HBO move, where they're basically giving this very talented auteur carte blanche to do what they want, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on what you think of the guy. Proper, what's your take on this news?
I actually have never heard of Maniac Cop. I just did did a couple clicks. It was like a slasher film or something.
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell. That's cool. I guess because I have no expectations on it. If I see it, it turns out to be good, I'll think it's really good. And in terms of the creative freedoms that you've mentioned that HBO is giving, was that what you were talking about? Like he has like free creative reign and
Pretty much.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
whatever he wants.
okay. Then that's excellent. That's something I would encourage. We need more creativity.
It's funny because some of the critics who watched Too Old to Die Young, which he also had carte blanche to do whatever he wanted with, were kind of like, maybe someone should have come in and reined him in a bit. Drunk 3PO, what do you think of this news? Were you a fan of any of these schlocky 80s horror movies?
I saw the first two. I think I didn't see the third one. Did you see the third one?
I have not seen the third one, but
Yeah, I heard
can you
the
believe
third
that
one.
they're turning Maniac Cop into a prestige series on HBO?
Yeah, I think if they keep it. I honestly think if they keep it like gritty, like the old '80s style, like type of vibe, it might turn out to be something kind of interesting. Like it is a slasher film, and but if they drag it out, not drag it out, but if they do it well enough where it's in a unique series, I think it'd be something different. You know, like improving on what the actual film was. Listen, it's a cult classic type movie, so you got to take it for what it's worth. The kill scenes are pretty 80s. It's kind of funny nowadays, looking at the way we have things now. So I'm definitely going to check it out. I'm definitely going to check it out and see what they've done with it. I don't know if they'll stay. Are they going to keep it close to what the film is, or it's going to be a whole new?
I think it's going to be a whole new thing. Judging by this quote, Wending Renfen's basically going to take the premise and put his own spin on it. If you've seen any of his movies or any of his TV shows, he has a very particular style and way of making a film
Yeah, definitely.
It's almost hypnotic. It's very high arty type stuff.
Yeah, definitely. You could watch those movies now and probably see it as a comedy instead of a slasher film, honestly.
It would be great if he somehow got Bruce Campbell to come in for this one.
Didn't he get real? Isn't he sick?
Bruce? Oh, I don't know. I don't. Think so.
Maybe I'm thinking someone else. Not to throw out people's sickness if he's sick. I'm just saying. But
Stephen, the illustrator, what do you think of this? Are you familiar with Wending Renfen at all, or Maniac Cop?
Not with the director. I don't think I'm familiar with him. I remember Maniac Cop from when I was a kid. I was into all that kind of those B movie slashers. The late night horror movies and stuff. So I remember the movie, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm not familiar with this guy or what he's done. So it seems like it could be interesting, but then at the same time, I'm kind of like, it just seems like there's such a lack of creativity where it's like, now we're going back to like 80s B movies and remaking these because no one can.
I do think Wending Renfen is a guy who is very big on creativity, judging from his previous stuff. And it's kind of interesting to me that he chose to take this schlocky 80s horror film and elevate it to his level in terms of in terms of filmmaking. Now, Ruin, I know that you being British, you're probably not familiar with some of these.
Yes. Well, I do have some thoughts here, if you don't mind. Cassian Endor, what an arsehole. Now, I'm goddamn sick of this bullshit that Disney are pulling. Kathleen Kennedy, you absolute bitch. We're sick of it. I'm sorry, Matthew. I had to get that out. I'm very sorry. No, I being a Brit, being a Brit, no, we don't get exposure to such things. Actually, interesting one. We don't get HBO. Is it like a channel? Is it a network in the US? HBO.
Wait, what?
We don't get HBO as a channel. We get
they only have three channels in Britain.
Well, I'm glad we got.
we get the shows off HBO fed to us via other channels, but we don't get.
HBO is a premium cable network.
Okay.
It's owned by AT&T and Warner Brothers, and basically, since the beginning of cable, you would pay a premium subscription price, like an extra $12 a month to get HBO, and they would use that to license out movies and stuff like that you could watch from home. And they do all this original series, like they did the Game of Thrones and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Where do you watch Game of Thrones then?
No, we get it, but we just get it via another channel. Like I say, we see the HBO logo, but we get it on it's called Sky One or Sky Atlantic, something like that. But
Sky and BBC, that's it.
Yes, that's all we have here.
Wait, so do you get them for free?
Yes, we get. Well,
what? Well,
no,
I mean, just
no. We get it as it's a total diversion here. Apologies, Matthew. We get it as part of our Sky package. So we get a whole host of channels, and that happens to be one of them. So I guess a whole different model. But I mean, circling back, it makes total sense now why they put on such fantastic big budget TV shows, because obviously it's a subscription service. I didn't realize that. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. I have nothing to add, but I'll give it a go. Why not? I love my 80s nostalgia. Yeah.
Well, have you seen any of Renfen's other stuff like Drive?
Yeah, I've seen Drive actually, and I really enjoyed that. So he's obviously a talented.
He did Drive. He also
talented
did. What was that other one? The fighting one. Let me check it up.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, I have seen Drive. Okay. But yeah, that was okay. That was cool. I like Drive, but
Yeah, with Ryan Gosling.
yeah.
He did another movie with Ryan Gosling. Let me just look it up here real quick. Yeah, his stuff, it's very neon heavy, very heavy colors, very slow. Okay, so he did Neon Demon. He also did Only God Forgives, which was the other Gosling movie. And yeah, he's got an interesting filmography. His stuff is very slow. It's very hypnotic. It's kind of experimental. He uses very heavy neon colors and stuff like that. And if any of you guys have Amazon Prime, I would highly recommend you check out Too Old to Die Young. It's a Prime original, so it's free with your Prime subscription. And it's 10 episodes long, and it is ridiculous how crazy that show is, because you can watch it one way and be like, this is boring, I hate this, or you could like really dive into it, like, because I'm a film geek and I studied film and stuff like that, and like when I watch these shows, I'm like, wow, this guy is operating on a whole different level.
That's how Drive was. So
yeah. So it's pretty interesting stuff, and the fact that he's tackling a Maniac Cop, I thought was a very interesting choice, especially after seeing what he did with Too Old to Die Young.
Okay.
I feel like I should have heard of Maniac Cop. I was really into all of the old 80s slasher films, like even like oh geez, what was that called? The Burning or something? Like I don't know, all those, like Happy Birthday to Me. I heard about all these films, never heard of Maniac Cop. So thank you for making me aware of this. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Well, I've been a diehard Bruce Campbell fan my entire life, and because he was involved in the first Maniac Cop, maybe the second, that's how I kind of became aware of it when I was younger. So it might just be a product of my age that I know about this,
or your tastes,
or my taste, indeed. All right, so moving on, we are going to talk about one more DC property, and that is that with the success of The Joker, Warner Brothers is tossing around the idea of a possible Two-Face movie done in the same vein as The Joker. So if we go over to this story from Bounding into Comics, it says, rumor DC discussing standalone Two-Face movie after Joker success. Joker has people talking, and its box office success has Warner Brothers thinking about what's next. Since a villain-centric movie independent of any comic canon is proving profitable, the studio may be considering duplicating that formula with another Batman villain who boasts his share of memorable film appearances. And then we got this covered. Reports sources close to them are saying Warner Brothers wants to develop more standalone villain pieces, and Two-Face is one of the next candidates to get his own movie. Guys, have any of you guys seen Joker yet, by any chance?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen it.
All right. So did you like it?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent piece of cinema.
Yes. Would you like to see more movies like that?
Yes. It sounds like we're being surveyed. Yes.
Yes.
Well,
next question.
absolutely.
I'm just wondering, because like the Joker has some type of penetration into the popular culture mindset, whereas Two-Face, maybe people's first exposure to him was in The Dark Knight. But like it seems to me like that the 1981 Gotham that Todd Phillips created for Joker would be a really fertile ground to kind of explore these other Batman rogues. And I'm kind of curious what you guys think about Two-Face, or if you think they should go with some other villains, because there's also been talk about a Lex Luthor standalone in the same vein. Ruin, what do you think of this? Because it kind of seems close to that Disney Plus Star Wars thing that you did, where we're just going to go down this list of characters, stop on one, be like, boom, that's the one that we're doing.
The drunk fishbowl game, yeah. I went to see Joker last week, actually, and blown away. I actually thought, though, the performance by Joaquin Phoenix was a lot better than the movie. I thought the movie was great, but I thought his performance was outstanding. So I think the challenge they're going to have with Two-Face is finding an actor that can give you that kind of portrayal and that kind of performance. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think they'd be falling into a trap though to think, oh, the Joker worked on its own, so we can do it with Two-Face, we can do it with other characters. I think they just hit upon an absolute incredible performance from Joaquin Phoenix. So, yeah, that's the challenge there. But yeah, look, I thought it was fantastic. I was blown away with it. Make it an 18 rate or wherever you call it over there, R rated, is it? You know, it's got to be. You've got to go down that road with it. And yeah, why not? I'm game. But interested to see what everyone else thinks. Who would you guys cast? I mean,
Stephen, do you think that it's a good idea to go with a Two-Face standalone in the vein of the Joker, or do you think they should go with a different villain, or even do it at all?
Well, I can understand why they're doing it. You know, they tried to do the Marvel thing and that failed, and so it seems like they're having more success with like smaller like character study movies. Like I haven't seen the Joker yet, but I get it. You know, it seems like kind of a double-edged sword. It might work, and I've seen people talking about this online. You know, like maybe they should just focus on all the villains first, and then kind of bring it all together with like a Batman tie-in or something. But you know, it also seems like maybe the Joker is one of those movies. Like it kind of you know, they kind of struck lightning, and it's not going to happen again. So they might try it with Two-Face, and it won't work. You know, and
well, it was funny because when the Joker movie was first announced, I was like, "This is a terrible idea. This movie's going to be awful." And boy, was I wrong.
you know,
I think a lot of us were wrong.
Yeah, me looking at this, it's like, oh, this sounds like a terrible idea. But then again, I was wrong before. So, Drunk, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. When it first came out, I had zero interest in seeing the Joker until SJW types started complaining about it. And then I was like, well, I'll go see it. It was a beautiful film. I think if DC stays on this road, because they definitely are a darker universe than Marvel, that they'll be producing a lot more quality stuff than what they did before. I understand why they would go with Two-Face, because I don't think people would flock to the theater for a villain that's not known. So, you know, if they went with a villain like Calendar Man or something like who the heck is that? Exactly. You don't even know who that is, do you?
No, so I thought you were making it up.
No, I'm not making it up.
No, I actually think it'd be a good idea to go with those more obscure villains like Calendar Man.
You have a weird mind, Matthew. You look at the world a little differently. Like people see a half a glass of water, you see like a half a glass of vodka. So like it's just a different breed of human that we're not caught up on. Like your genes are better than all of us. So you're smart enough to grasp that film. You got to understand, like normies and people that don't really follow comic books, they want those people to spend money on the movies as well. And so if you have a movie like of a villain that nobody's even heard of, they're not going to go see it because they've never heard of it. So of course they would pick Two-Face has already been out in the cinema before. Right. And, you know, or Lex Luthor, everybody knows that name. Those are common names before they start opening things up. Just like they didn't push Guardians of the Galaxy till Marvel was on a roll, you know? They started taking this thing and started getting on a roll. Then they were able to introduce other people that not so known in the universe. So, but they were able to stamp that Marvel tag on and say, we're making this one. I know you don't know these characters, but trust me. So I think they can. I think if they stick with this format, they could pull off some amazing cinema. It doesn't have to be like super dark every time, but you know, just keep it in that format of that grittiness that they did with the Joker. It was fantastic. It was just different. It was different than what we've seen in the cinema for a little while. So it was good to see something different.
I personally would like to see more stories in this kind of Todd Phillips Gotham that he created, because I just love the sensibility of it, the dirty, grimy Scorsese,
exactly.
You know, exactly. Work of that era. Proper. What do you think of this news? Do you think that Warner Brothers could pull off yet another great villain-centric movie?
Of course they can, but it's about how you. It's not just having a good idea, having a good script. You know, it's all about the execution. If you're gonna go about it thinking like, you just want to replicate the success of the Joker, it's not going to work, because the Joker worked because it worked, and it wasn't really, if you get down to it, about the Joker. That's not what it was about. It was a movie about a guy named Arthur who's going down this road. No one's there to help him, and this is how he gets to where he is, going down that hole of madness, really. But I think it definitely could work with Harvey Dent as well. But as long as they don't just keep in mind that, we just want to do this just because, it worked once, so it'll work again. No, you just got to have it done for the right reasons. And that when you boil it down to that, that's why I think it could be really good. But again, it's about the execution every time. And I think Todd Phillips has, I think the beauty of the Joker is that it's not a part of any universe. It's its own thing, because everyone's talking about, all these cinematic universes that everyone's trying to start. And I'm just like, I want just like one good film, and that's all I need. I don't need, 100 different Marvel movies that are like almost copy paste sometimes. No, one good movie will be satisfying. So if it's a great idea, if it's something that they feel like they can tackle, and that's actually something, now that I think about it, DC has really worked when they didn't really focus so much on Superman or Batman. Like when it was like Wonder Woman, it was great. Aquaman was great. Joker is really, really good. Shazam, it didn't make as much money, but people really enjoyed it. So yeah, if you're so that's why I'm kind of leaning towards, I'm agreeing with you, Matthew, that like if you have some of the more obscure characters, I guess, or characters who haven't been in the forefront of these movies, I think it could work really well if it's done right. But yeah, if it's anything like the Joker, I'll be kind of disappointed because it'll feel like the same thing. So I want it to be unique in that way. But I think I sort of rambled a little bit. But
well, I do think it's interesting that Hollywood seems to be looking at villains as like the new vehicles for driving these films as opposed to the heroes. But anyway, guys, I think we covered all the topics I wanted to cover today. And we've been going for about an hour and 40 minutes now, and it's time to wrap things up. So, Ruin, why don't you tell people where they can find out more about you and what you're all about?
Absolutely. So, you'll get me on Twitter, battling the SJW hordes, at Ruin the Man Baby. You can catch some videos on my YouTube channel, again, Ruin the Man Baby. I like to do some comedy musical roasts. So I think the last ones I dished out to was Pablo. So you can check that one out. And then more recently, I've been doing a podcast called The Fandom Menace Show, and actually, Matthew, you were good enough to be my first guest, and Stephen, also a guest, and Drunk and Proper, I want you guys on as well sometime, if you'd be kind enough to be a guest on that. That's available.
Absolutely.
That's available on all podcast platforms. I am making my way around the Fandom Menace, and it's real good fun. Thanks for having me, Matthew.
Can I ask Ruin a question about that?
Go for it, my man.
Why the Junk Man? Why?
Yeah, okay. So Junkman, I'm recording that show a little late tonight, and I'll tell you why. I needed someone. I needed someone to give an alternative opinion, and Junkman was willing to stick his neck out there, and he's a bit of a pro Last Jedi guy. So I've gone with Junkman. God help me. That episode may not get heard. I'm just putting that disclaimer out there.
Subversion.
Stephen, why don't you tell people about yourself and where they can find out more about you?
You can find me on Twitter. It's at Stephen Wayne Art. I have a YouTube channel that I'm just kind of getting started, so I don't really have anything on there, but it's Stephen the Illustrator. Other than that, I'm just mostly hanging out on Twitter, doing some artwork here and there, some memes, and getting called names and all that fun stuff. So that's about it. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Matthew. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being on. Proper, why don't you tell people where they can find out more about you?
Well, my name is Proper Jeremy. You can find me at youtube.com/ProperJeremy and on Twitter. And I have a weekly show called This Week in Bullshit, where we talk about a couple serious things, and then we just look at goofy articles of just like ridiculous things. Like a couple weeks ago, there was a vegan who tried to. I'm not going to get into it, but there's a lot of like a lot of Florida man news, I guess, that Drunk 3P is familiar with. We get into that. We have a good laugh. And it's a good time. So go check that out. And tomorrow's going to be a Counselor Jeremy stream where we have all the Jeremy parody accounts and we go and discuss things, gives them a platform because usually they're not on a lot of live streams. So this gives them just an outlet to voice their opinions. And it's always great. And yep, Hammer's great. He was in my chat last night. Good seeing you here, man, too. And thank you for having me on, Matthew. Great conversation.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. And Drunk 3PO, where can they find out more about you and what you do?
Yes, all things Drunk 3PO, YouTube channel, Twitter. I do a lot of stuff about Galaxy's Edge just because I live next door. And so there's a lot of that news that always comes out. And again, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And it's good to see Ruin and Steven. Also, my avatar was designed by Steven the Illustrator.
Woo!
So,
yeah.
I always want to give him a special shout out, and he gave me the permission to sell that design on shirts, and we're giving that money away to charity. So those links are all around my YouTube. So thank you, Steven.
Good stuff.
As always, man, I appreciate you and everybody else here. Proper, Matthew, Ruin, always good people, man. Sub to their channels, find them. They're great people. Great people.
Yeah, Steven is a very talented artist. It's not just a clever title.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you all for coming out for today's live stream. And thank you all for watching and listening on Facebook and YouTube. Really appreciate you guys and your participation in the comments. And tune in next week for yet another great Legion of Doom live stream with all your favorite supervillains getting together to talk about movie, TV, and entertainment news and analysis. This is Matthew Kadish. I will catch you in the next one. Peace out, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.